So what is targeted leadership training and what does it mean to you? Well, stick around and we're going to talk about on tonight's episode. But first, good evening, Agile acquisition enthusiasts. Welcome back to the Underground Digital Tiki Bar. It's Friday night, and that means it's time for another episode of Agile Acquisitions and Alcohol. Cheers. So recently I made a post, an innocent post on LinkedIn about targeted leadership training around the adoption of Agile practices. And I received a ton of comments and private messages. And I thought, well, this must be interesting to folks. So I'm going to go ahead and make a video. And here we are. So the idea here is, we have training for contracting officers in the DITAP program and other programs that are kind of helping contracting officers get a better understanding of how to do the buying. But the reality is we know we can do this now. We know we can buy it. And we know there's various models and approaches, things I've talked about in other videos on how to go about doing it and best practices, but we know it can be done. And we also know that senior leadership wants it. They want us to be more agile, more modern. They want better technology faster. We need it. It's imperative. But what we find is that we start to sort of stick a little bit as we move between leadership vision and execution. And what I believe that might be in part is senior leaders, middle to senior leaders who are responsible for implementing super senior leaders' vision also have the very difficult and important responsibility of limiting risk, of protecting leadership and the organization, because it doesn't matter how fast you can move if you run straight into that brick wall. Their job is critically important, so we should not be disparaging them. They have to evaluate the actual practicality of implementing great ideas. And sometimes that means you can't implement it. It's like the old adage says, no one ever got fired for awarding a contract to IBM. No, nothing against IBM here. That's just the adage I didn't make. But what it conveys is essentially no one ever gets in trouble for being safe. And maybe that's part of the problem, is not that we shouldn't be safe, but in fact that we should understand what safe means. And in order to do that, you have to have a really good understanding of the mechanics below a process. And so if you are in a decision-making position and someone presents you a pressed suit with a stack of papers that you will be able to review every month in a neatly organized briefcase, or a t-shirt and a pair of jeans with some rips in it, and everything is in this cloud thing, and you are responsible if this goes wrong, you might be more inclined to pick what seems safer, even if it might come, and probably will, with less efficiency or less sort of like magic, if you will, in modernization. And so what I'm proposing is that I think these leaders need some focused training similar to executive leadership training, but executive leadership training specifically around adoption of modern software development practices, which through no fault of their own, evolved over the course of their career, and they may have never been exposed to it if they have always been inside the government, because there's not a lot of that to be found, certainly not more than 5 years ago. But I almost think of it more like therapy versus training, if you will. And therapy in the sense of like, it's a safe space to be like, hey, I really don't know what the hell this means. Don't tell anybody. I'm supposed to be in charge here, but everybody's talking about this and I don't get it. Someplace where leadership can have that conversation without risking their reputation, get up to speed and ask really good questions that they might not feel super comfortable asking in front of everybody else, and get a deep understanding so that when they walk into the room and they see those two pictures, they can evaluate each of those on their own merits. So that's the idea, just kind of throwing it out there into the universe, if you will. I've started giving this more and more thought. I've had some really interesting conversations over the last couple of days with other folks who have been giving this some thought. So if you have any ideas here or something you want to talk about, feel free to put it in the comments below. or give me a thumbs up, subscribe so you can catch the next episode. And I'd be happy to join in any conversations with anyone who's interested in exploring this a little bit further, because I think if we can unstick this, I think it will propel modern software technology into the future for the federal government, or at least into the now, which would be way in the future from where we are right now. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next week, cheers.